学生们好, we're now going to continue our Unit 5, going into our Lesson 3 for our third learning target about the Pythagorean theorem. Remember that our first and second learning targets were about the trigonometric functions, tangent, sine, and cosine, and then learning target 2 was about applying tangent to our story problems. Now we're on to our Lesson 3, our third learning target. Before we go into that though, let's do some review on our trig functions. Remember our solving, if we had sides of a right triangle, we have the opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. If we had two of those, then we can work with finding the missing, one of the missing sides. And if we were working with the opposite and adjacent, we would use tangent. If we had the opposite and hypotenuse, however, we would use sine. And lastly, if we had adjacent and hypotenuse, we would work with cosine. Those were our three trigonometric functions to use. So let's just practice those again. We have a few problems for you to practice on. Which one would you choose to solve for the missing side x? Go ahead and pause here. So looking carefully, our missing side x, because our reference angle is a 63, so x is opposite, 12 is adjacent. We have the hypotenuse that we can't use. So if we know opposite and adjacent, we use tangent. And our work is in the box. Tangent of 63 is x divided by 12 because it's opposite over the adjacent. And if we use our calculator, tangent of 63 would be 1.96. That's plugging in the calculator. And let's check in the calculator again just to make sure we know how to use tangent again. So on the decimals calculator, tangent is right here, sine and cosine. Tangent of 63 is what gives me the decimal I have in the second line. And we would do the same for sine and cosine. Depending on what our angle is, we put it into those ones that we set up with. So in this case, we have tangent. And then using our solving, x is equal to 12 times 1.9626, and we get x is about 23.55. And remember, we can check 23.55 divided by 12, plugging it back into the equation gives us 1.9625, which is about the decimal we had for tangent 63. Remember, we're going to have some rounding errors here, so if we're getting pretty close, then you know you're getting the right answer. Go on to this one. Go ahead and set up your equation and solve for the missing side x. Notice that our reference angle is 36. Go ahead and pause here. So we should notice that with 36, our opposite is x. Hypotenuse is 19. So with those two working together, we have sine. And our work shows us here. Sine 36 is 0.5878. Just like before, we would press the sine button and then 36. And our final answer for our opposite is 11.17. To check, 11.17 divided by 19 is 0.5879, which is close to what sine 36 was. Last but not least, one last one. Go ahead and pause and try to figure out the missing side here. So now with our reference angle as 49, 13 is our adjacent, x is hypotenuse, opposite is nothing. And so now we have cosine is what works with hypotenuse and adjacent. Cosine 49 equals to 13 divided by x. Now this time x is in the denominator because that's hypotenuse. And using the calculator, cosine 49 gives us about 0.6561. And if we continue to solve, remember, when x is in the denominator, we have to switch with the decimal. So x is 13 divided by 0.6561, and we get about 19.82 for our hypotenuse x. Again, checking here, we can see that 13 divided by 19.82 is about 0.656, which is close to where our cosine 49 is. Hopefully this rings some bells from before, and now we are ready to continue.